All right, Wilson, let's get this week started, shall we? Downtown Billings, we are at 31 degrees. It is 6:28. It is already starting to get light now because of the time change. As we look at First News, it's fair, it's accurate, and, yep, you're right, you get the damn truth. Severe weather remains a threat in parts of our country today. Parts of Oklahoma, strong storms, tornadoes overnight. Ripped roofs off buildings, knocked out power to thousands. 24,000 utility customers still without power by yesterday. Authorities said 11 people had to be taken to hospitals with injuries. But fortunately, no reported fatalities from the Oklahoma storms. Indonesia's National Disaster Agency said 10 people died in a series of volcanic eruptions. The eruption at Mount Leotobi after midnight spewed thick brown ash 2,000 meters in the sky. 10,000 people have been affected in 6 different villages around that volcano. At least we don't have too many volcanic eruptions that we have to worry about. The recurrent storms in eastern Spain that led to massive flooding last week, their death toll is now 200. Rain was pouring in Barcelona yesterday, prompted authorities at that point to suspend commuter rail service. The region has 8 million people in it, and those storms have affected most of them. Germany's top diplomat has arrived in the Ukrainian capital of Kiev. It's an unannounced visit, appears to show European support for the Ukraine. This coming on the eve of our election. Germany is Ukraine's second biggest weapons supplier behind you and me here in the U.S. They said a lot of partners around the world standing behind Ukraine. War's at a critical moment, too, with Russian army now making gains. Russian army now has taken on North Korea as an ally. They're fighting side by side with Russia. It's getting ugly over there, folks. That's why our election is so important. You have 2 different strategies going into the Ukraine to vote for. You want more involvement in U.S. weaponry, more of our war material going on there, prolonging the war? Or do you want someone who is going to negotiate an end to it almost immediately? At least that's his campaign promise. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump zeroing in on Sunbelt states over the weekend. Today, the final push before the election. Harris was in Pennsylvania and also in parts of Florida and North Carolina, hitting the swing states. Same with President Trump, all making their final push in these states that could make it or break it for each one of them. What it matters to us are the results. The results on Election Day will come down, they say, they being the experts, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Right now, it's a toss-up according to the recent polls. You can't believe polls, folks. They never get it right. The results on Election Day could take time, too. Polls open, for instance, at 8 a.m. in Arizona, and a lot of the polls on the western part of the country, a lot of people still voting, while polls on the eastern side of the country are already voted on and counted. We'll just have to wait for the results. Georgia, their state government is going to divert $100 million to spend on loans for people to clean up Hurricane Helene. Also help farmers get back on the ground as that hurricane devastated the farms down there. It was set aside for construction projects and paying off their existing debt. $75 million will be used for disaster relief loans for farmers and businesses in the agricultural industry. $25 million will be spent to clean up timber losses and debris. Farmers will have to replant, rebuild. It's a mess down there in Georgia from the hurricane. People aren't waiting in North Carolina. They saw the results of your U.S. government and FEMA and their response in North Carolina. So they are setting all kinds of records with ballots already in. Yeah, that's right. These people lost their homes, their vehicles, everything, but they got their ballots in. They're letting their voice be heard. 4.2 million ballots had already been returned in North Carolina. That's almost 1 million more than the record from 2020, when they had 3.6 million in, and more of them are coming in over the weekend. Some people in the news: Quincy Jones has died. He was 91, died Sunday night at his home in Los Angeles. Jones had a historical career, produced Michael Jackson's record-setting Thriller album, and prize-winning film and television scores and collaborations with People like Frank Sinatra, Ray Charles. He rose from the music school dropout to the very heights of show business. One of the most important black executives ever to thrive in Hollywood over 60 years. It was hard to find someone in music, TV, or movie who did not have some connection to Quincy Jones. A lot of business news today around America. Unionized factory workers at Boeing will vote today whether to accept a contract offer or continue their strike. The walkout lasted 7 weeks, shut down a lot of production for Boeing passenger planes. They will vote today, could raise their pay by 38% over 4 years. Workers also would receive a ratification bonus for voting on it.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. Boeing did not meet their demand to restore a pension plan that was frozen a decade ago. It was breaking them. So we'll see what happens today. 2 or 3 Chinese astronauts have returned to Earth after a 6-month stay in China. The parachute slowed their capsule's descent Monday, landed in a remote area of the Inner Mongolia region. Those Chinese astronauts should run to church today. And thank God that everything Chinese made on that ship worked as they were coming down to Earth. I'm surprised they made it in one piece. But they did. They'd been up there for about 6 months or so. Conservationists today are suing, trying to block a lithium mine in Nevada. The environmentalists who are so much behind the push for electric vehicles won't let us mine the stuff, guess what, that's needed for electric vehicles. The Center for Biological Diversity promised the court battle this week. They're not going to give up. Joe Biden's administration is pushing under this Clean Energy Act that he and John Tester and others passed to cut fossil fuel production in America. Lithium is needed to make electric vehicle batteries and solar panels. We don't have a whole lot. We have some. And what we do have, all the Democrats that voted for all of these new electric vehicles won't let them dig the lithium and mine it. So they're suing to stop it. The Federal Reserve is pondering whether or not to cut interest rates again or not. They think inflation is cooling enough to where they could possibly do it. Even though inflation rates were cut, the average home mortgage rate on a 30-year home last week went up. Warren Buffett, he must know something. He's selling stock as fast as he can sell it. He's acquired $325 billion in cash now as he continues to unload shares of Bank of America, Apple, and a lot of his other big investments. Saudi Arabia and some of their oil-producing countries said they're going to postpone a plan to increase oil output until the end of the year. These OPECers all got together and said 2.2 million barrels a day would be too much. They're trying once again to handcuff the world and inflate the price of oil, and we let them do it. Shares are mostly higher in Asia and China today. The oil prices did gain $1 a barrel after what the OPECers said. Wendy's, we told you, plans to close 140 restaurants before the end of the year, but they are still expanding. They are just realigning. Their CEO, Kirk Tanner, said that the restaurants that will be closing are ones that are underperforming. Now, they still plan to build another 250 to 300 more restaurants in locations around the country to keep the company's growth. But this coming on the heels of a lot of restaurant chains and others cutting. You may recall in October, Denny's said they were closing 150 locations. Red Lobster filed for bankruptcies in more than a dozen states. Restaurant chain TGI Fridays said, guess what? They have now filed for bankruptcy. Oh, yeah, the Dallas-based company said they just can't make it. Sit-down chain restaurants have faced challenges now in recent years because of inflation, food prices, the demand for better wages, $20 an hour fast food worker wages that have been put in by Democrats that have forced these businesses to close the doors, folks. And you're going to get that ×4 if you fill out the wrong oval. Tomorrow, U.S. stocks today, kind of bouncing back and forth as far as our futures go. Now, on Friday, the S&P was up 23 points. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was up 288. NASDAQ on Friday was up 144 points. So, had a good day on Friday. Some news out of Missoula. They are going to add some new year-round flights to Chicago. At their airport, They got a big chunk of your dollars from federal funding to help them subsidize the airlines. So right now, if you want to leave Missoula and go to Chicago, you can only do so May through mid-October. This will enable them to have either American or United Airlines in there year-round. The service will not start, though, until the fall of 2025. And for some television viewers, size apparently matters. You can forget the 65-inch TV that were considered bigger than average a few years ago. Just in time for the holidays, these manufacturers and retailers are rolling out more of these XXL screens. They are 8 feet across. Oh, for crap's sake. The wider than a standard 3-seat sofa or a king-size bed. The TVs are bigger than your bed. Good night. Supersized TVs accounted for 1.7% of all TV revenues in the U.S. during the first 9 months of the year. But companies are preparing for shoppers to go big for Christmas. They have a reason to think that these growing ultra-category TVs will be a bright spot in a tepid television market, according to what analysts said. So 65-inch isn't going to cut it anymore. You're going to have to tear that sucker down and put an 8-footer up there on the wall. 8-foot TV set, Mark. They'll have those lined up in the aisles at Walmart and Costco.
Well, that's what all the sports bars will go to.
And those people will be in there in their stretch pants with their Montana Millionaire tickets sticking out of their pocket, hauling a 8-foot TV through the checkout line. You put half of it on this one and half of it on that one. Crap, I'm staying out of the stores. Cat Country News time is 6:42. Sports and weather next.
Well, South Carolina has been fined $250,000 by the SEC because fans rushed the field after they beat number 10 Texas A&M 44-20. They were fined earlier this season for a basketball game when they beat Kentucky, which was number 6 at the time, 79-62. And if you do it again, it's going to be $500,000. And you know what? They're going to do it again.
They're going to do it again. And you know what? Some booster will pay that.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'll pay it. Let the kids tear them down.
Doesn't matter. The clock ran out. Fans climbed over the stands, came out of the bushes, everything else. $250,000, not my money.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, we're going to start the week a little cooler, all right? We're going to be in the 40s early this week, but we're going to be into the upper 50s, close to 60 by the weekend. So 49 today, 43 tomorrow. The high Wednesday only 40, but then we get into the 50s. Friday 58, Saturday 59. That'll be a good day to burn. I'll set the world on fire that day. Average this time of year is about 51. It is light already, folks. Just starting to get light now.
This is the good part of the day.
6:44, and that's what's happening. Mark and Paul here together. Thanks for tuning into the Cat.